Laurel Bowman and Rachel Cryer, described in the complaint as LBC and RBC, are both homosexual females, begins the findings of fact and the merits in the final ruling by the Oregon Bureau of Labor and Industry regarding the Sweetcakes by Melissa dispute. They met in 2004 while they attended the same college and considered themselves a couple for the 11 years preceding the hearing. They lived together in Texas until 2009, when they moved to Portland, Oregon, and have lived together continuously since moving to Portland. Lauren first asked Rachel to marry her soon after they met and was turned down. Lauren continued to propose on a regular basis until October 2012, when Rachel finally agreed to marry her. Bear in mind, once again, as this order will point out, at that point, the state of Oregon officially discriminated against same-sex couples by refusing to license or recognize their unions as marriages. Before October 2012, Rachel did not want to get married because of her personal experience of failed marriages that tended to do more damage than good. This is all very interesting, of course, but in terms of the factual question of whether these two were victimized by the denial of service on the part of Aaron Klein is really not relevant. But this is not a court. That's a very important consideration here. The BOLI, the Oregon Bureau of Labor and Industry, is an administrative body, not a court. It is presided over by an elected functionary, Commissar Brad Avakian, who is a communist of a sort you very rarely encounter in any place other than Pyongyang today. It acts as the plaintiff, it appoints the prosecutor, it retains the judge, and the commissioner is the one in charge of making awards. It is a Soviet, if you will, which is to say an independent, autonomous council that combines functions that have to be kept separate. To continue. In November 2011, complainants became foster parents for E and A, two disabled children with very high special needs after the death of their mother, LBC's best friend, that is to say, Lauren's best friend. At the time, complainants were already the children's godparents. When they became the children's foster parents, complainants decided that they wanted to adopt the children. Subsequently, complainants became involved in a bitter and emotional custody battle for the children, with the children's great-grandparents that continued until sometime after December 2013, when complainants' December 2013 adoption application was formally approved by the state of Oregon. Bear in mind that during this entire period of the dispute with Aaron Klein, they were involved in an adoption struggle with the natural grandparents of these children. That's an important consideration in terms of evaluating the suitability of these two, whatever their sexual inclinations, to be parents of two special needs children who would require self-effacement on the part of very patient parents. In October 2012, RBC decided that she and LBC should get married in order to give their foster children permanency and commitment by showing them how much she and LBC loved one another and were committed to one another. Rachel told Lauren that she wanted to get married, which made Lauren extremely happy. After her long-standing matrimonial reticence, Rachel then became excited to get married and to start planning the wedding, wanting a wedding that was as big and grand as they could afford. Once again, this is all very interesting, but not particularly relevant. Apart, of course, from demonstrating that these were two emotionally vulnerable people. Sometime between October 2012 and January 17th of 2013, Rachel and Cheryl McPherson, who is Rachel's mother, attended a Portland bridal show. Melissa Klein had a booth at the show to advertise wedding cakes made by Sweetcakes by Melissa. 2 years earlier, Sweetcakes had designed, created, and decorated a wedding cake for Cheryl McPherson that Rachel really liked. At the show, Rachel and Cheryl visited Sweetcakes' booth and told Melissa that they would like to order a cake from her. After the show, Rachel made an appointment by way of email for a cake tasting at Sweetcakes. Bear in mind, once again, at this point, Melissa had no idea that she was going to be asked to make a cake for a wedding ceremony that was not legally recognized in the state of Oregon. Complainants were both excited about the cake tasting at Sweetcakes because the cake they had made for Cheryl's wedding had been so good, and Rachel wanted to order a cake like Cheryl's cake. On January 17th of 2013, Rachel and her mother visited Sweetcakes Bakery Shop in Gresham, Oregon for their cake tasting appointment, intending to order a cake for Rachel's wedding to Lauren. At the time of the tasting, Melissa was at home and Aaron conducted the tasting. During the tasting, Aaron asked for the names of the bride and groom, and Rachel told him there would be two brides and the names were Rachel and Laurel. At that point, Aaron stated that he was sorry, but that Sweetcakes did not make wedding cakes for same-sex ceremonies because of his and his wife's religious convictions. In response, Rachel began crying. She said that she had humiliated her mother and was anxious whether her mother was ashamed of her. in that Cheryl had believed that being homosexual was wrong until only a few years earlier. Cheryl then took Rachel by the arm and walked her out of Sweetcakes to their car. On the way out to their car and in the car, Rachel became hysterical and kept telling Cheryl, "I'm sorry," because she felt that she had humiliated her mother. In the car, Cheryl hugged Rachel and assured her that they would find someone to make a wedding cake, which is exactly what they should have done at that point. If they had been blessed with the rudimentary maturity and emotional stability necessary to raise children. Adulthood requires, among other things, that one practice deferral of desires and that one keep a check rein on his or her emotions when dealing with challenges. That's when you're dealing with a healthy family where nobody has special needs that will require attention and patience. You're talking about people who wanted to adopt 2 children described as having very high special needs. Cheryl drove a short distance and then returned to Sweetcakes and re-entered Sweetcakes by herself to talk to Aaron. During their subsequent conversation, Cheryl told Aaron that she used to think like him, but her truth had changed as a result of having 2 gay children. Aaron quoted Leviticus 18:22 to Cheryl, saying, "You shall not lie with a male as one lies with a female. It is an abomination." Cheryl then left Sweetcakes and returned to the car. While Cheryl was in Sweetcakes, Rachel remained sitting in the car, holding her head in her hands, just bawling. This is somebody who wants to raise a special needs child. When Cheryl returned to the car, she told Rachel that Aaron had told her that her children were an abomination unto God. That's not what he said. There's no evidence that he said such a thing. That, of course, did not in any way improve Rachel's mood. This made Rachel cry even more, continues the findings of fact. Rachel was raised as a Southern Baptist. The denial of service in this manner made her feel as if God had made a mistake when he made her, that she wasn't supposed to be, and that she wasn't supposed to love or be loved, have a family, or go to heaven. All very interesting, completely irrelevant with respect to what Aaron Klein did and what he said. But we're in the realm of social justice warrior logic, which means that the only thing that matters are the identity of the victim and the way that the victim felt. I'll be back in just a minute.